Jeffrey Epstein was a rogue CIA or Mossad intelligence officer. Everybody knows this. This is a discussion that is taking place privately. Today, on the day that Tom Blanche released 3 million documents, that means he's released a total of 3.5 million documents, including 180,000 photos and 2,000 videos. On the day that he releases all of that, I'm going to go through all of this story and tell you the truth about it and tell you the reality that what Donald Trump is doing is behaving in a very, very responsible fashion, just to be fair, as His Majesty the King has behaved in a responsible fashion. Shh, don't tell anyone, it's the Clintons that are dodgy as usual. But if intelligence services have blackmailed major figures in Britain and America, and indeed across the Western world, that raises major questions for our national security. So let's go through the story and then let's ask ourselves about the artist formerly known as Prince. Hello everyone, this is Andre Walker. Thanks so much for watching this video. Thanks for supporting this channel. Please do subscribe. Also, you really helped me the other day when you shared this video with people. Please do consider sharing this video. So, what is the backstory of Jeffrey Epstein? Well, there are troubling elements of it, aren't there? The fact that he became a billionaire overnight is not that unusual. Hedge funders tend to do that. That is to say, that because of the professional fees they charge, in the case of some of them up to 30% of the profits they generate, when somebody parks $1 billion with them and they make a load of money, money can avalanche in. He's a former maths teacher. Not that unusual, frankly, for somebody in a hedge fund to have done a degree in maths. Well, he hadn't done a degree in maths, but to have some knowledge in mathematics, which he had. What is slightly bizarre, of course, about him is he'd never been to university and he goes straight from apparently working in a school to setting up a hedge fund. How did he know all these people? How was he able to get all of this money? Well, the answer very simply is he's a former intelligence officer. How do we know that? Well, actually, it's not particularly unusual for former intelligence officers to become billionaires. We've seen the example with Vladimir Putin. The reason is because they're professionally trained at networking, they're professionally trained at access to funds, they're professionally trained at things like blackmail, counterintelligence, building teams and all that sort of thing. And they tend to be quite intelligent to start with. Now, have we seen a document that says Jeffrey Epstein was in Mossad or the CIA? No, we haven't. But I think it's not too difficult if you look across the internet to see credible former intelligence sources who say that the pattern of behaviour is sort of consistent with somebody that would be an intelligence officer. By the way, I'm not doing down the Israelis here. It's just because he happens to be Jewish, it might be Mossad, and because he's American, it might be the CIA. Less likely to be MI6 as a foreign person, because there is a difference between an intelligence officer and an intelligence agent. He would have been an officer, i.e. he would be a professional member of staff, whereas an agent is somebody who passes information to the intelligence services. Lots and lots of people, by the way, are agents. You may be one yourself without knowing it. Certainly I've got friends of mine who like foreign travel and they've got a mate who comes and meets up with them to discuss or where they've been recently. Somebody who appeared from nowhere. That person is almost certainly an MI6 handler talking to them. So people end up being agents without realising. But here is the critical issue with all of this. The question is, how much did he get the money invested by blackmail? We certainly know that people like Clinton and Prince Andrew opened the door for him. What was interesting, and this is the bit that the left absolutely hate, that the BBC will never report, that Sky will never report, that ITV will never report, it's this, that Virginia Roberts-Giuffre, the lady who very sadly took her own life as a result of everything that happened just before her book was published. She was actually a masseuse at Mar-a-Lago, which Donald Trump owned because her dad worked there. When she told Donald Trump about the behaviour of Jeffrey Epstein with all of these young girls, Jeffrey Epstein threw him out of the club and Donald Trump threw him out of the club and never spoke to him again. So all of these people travelling to the islands, you know, Bill Clinton going, Prince Andrew going, Donald Trump was not on that list. Now, the BBC is desperate for you to believe that Donald Trump was in collusion with Jeffrey Epstein. But the reason that Donald Trump is doing what he's doing is because before he got into office, he said, this is very easy. Let's release all of the details on all the people, release all the documents. Yes. Well, of course, when he gets into the presidency of the United States of America, he's now privy to the other side of the story, which is, of course, that people are being blackmailed. Now, frankly, if you've slept with an underage girl and you're being blackmailed for it, how much sympathy should anyone have for you? Well, it's not that. It's the national security secrets that are being passed on as a result. It's often said that Jeffrey Epstein brought Prince Andrew back to New York and deliberately walked him through Central Park and got that photo of them together, because who else would have got the photo? It was lined up by Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know if that's true, but what we do know is that he was financing projects for Prince Andrew left, right and centre. Now, to what extent is blackmail, and to what extent is blackmail inducement? There's very often the carrot and stick. Do you remember what Vito Corleone would say? You can sign the document or your brains can be all over it. Very often there is a carrot and stick element, which is, I know something about you, you can work with me, or you can go against that. I think what now we're going to start seeing is actually more about the workings of Epstein himself. How did he get to where he was going to? And indeed, which people have compromised themselves? I agree with the victims. We do need to ask that question. But I think we need to ask a bigger question about the United States of America. And I hope Donald Trump will do that. Because the reason why Virginia Roberts Giuffre's family really like the British is because they say that Prince Andrew, they say that Ghislaine Maxwell, they say that Peter Mandelson all have something in common. They're the only 3 Brits that were accused of wrongdoing in the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, and they're the only 3 people who've received any punishment at all for it. Now, admittedly, Ghislaine Maxwell's slightly different because, of course, she was arrested in the United States of America, but it nonetheless is true to say that it is in Britain, under our system, where there has been some punishment for the people involved, and that is a good thing. I think, my view on Prince Andrew, by the way, and people have criticised me about this, I think that in the case of Prince Andrew, we don't need to prove any of the allegations that you make. So people shout, Prince Andrew's this, and all that sort of thing. As far as I'm concerned, as a member of the British royal family, in a position of responsibility, he should have cooperated with the FBI's investigation into Epstein. By not doing that, that in of itself, I think, should preclude him from being a member of the royal family. And I think that that is important, and an important point to put across. Similarly, the fact that Mandelson was not willing to be honest and open about his relationship with Mandelson, even if he'd done nothing wrong, the fact he'd been so dishonest was a problem in of itself. And of course, the other thing is, Ghislaine Maxwell, well, the victims say that she was not, the trafficker. She was a participant using all sorts of, well, I won't make you think about some of the things she got up to, but she was in the room is the central point about all of this. And I think so we now have to take away a couple of points. Number one, why was it so easy to penetrate the upper classes of Western society and blackmail them in this way? Secondly, what have the intelligence services done to tighten up their processes? Because having somebody like this go rogue is a major problem. It's the sort of thing you'd expect in the former Soviet Union, and we've seen it in the former Soviet Union, but to see it in the Western world is clearly just as damaging as it was to the Soviet Union. I think next, we've got to ask the extent to which our own royal family was exploited. Because if, there's videos being made on this island. By the way, just to be clear, if somebody said to you, do you want to go to an island where the plane is nicknamed the Lolita Express, right? You don't have to have an interest in Russian literature to know that that book is a reference to CSA. Yeah, I always forget the acronym. But if you got invited on it, do you want to go on the Lolita Express to have a weekend partying with Jeffrey Epstein and his prostitutes? No, I don't. That sounds like the worst weekend ever. Why were people interested in doing that? But if they were enticed to go with the opportunity of meeting the artist formerly known as Prince Andrew, then I think that is a worrying development and may mean that actually the upper echelons of the Britain was compromised by a security service or a security operative who'd gone rogue. But then beyond that, I have to say, and my dad doesn't agree with me on this, I think that if you got drunk and slept with somebody and later discovered they were underage, I think that you would have every right to want your anonymity maintained. My dad says, look, if you're a 50-year-old bloke and she looks about 18, probably that's dodgy in of itself, though it's not illegal. Well, we will see what happens with this data drop, but I do want to say to you, more than anything else, Donald Trump has acted responsibly and the BBC will never admit that. Until next time, goodbye.